Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinav Adhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om, may the Divine Being look over us lovingly as a mother and father. May the Divine Being support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Om, peace, peace, peace to us and to all your beloved children everywhere. Well, dearly beloved of the congregation, thank you for joining us this evening for this class on Bhagavad Gita. We are starting with chapter. We're just about finished with the Gita. This Wednesday class has been going on for some time, and we're on chapter 17, which is called The Field and Its Knower.
Actually, yeah. In this book, it's chapter 13, Brother Shankara.
Chapter 13.
13, yes.
I constantly make that mistake.
That's okay. It's very confusing.
For saying it's okay.
That's all right.
Yeah, I just don't have a head for numbers.
Yeah.
Chapter 13, The Field and Its Knower. It is an absolutely defining chapter because we hear from Sri Krishna just who is who and what is what. But before we begin, are there any comments or questions from anyone about anything at all in spiritual life that you'd like to discuss? Any comment from your own experience? Any concern, any question? All right, dear, please go ahead with chapter 13.
13.
The Field and Its Knower.
Okay. Good evening and namaste, everybody. We are on page 119 in the book Bhagavad Gita by Swami Prabhavananda and Christopher Isherwood. And here it is. The chapter 13 is The Field and Its Knower. Arjuna. And now, Krishna, I wish to learn about Prakriti and Brahman, the field and the knower of the field. What is knowledge? What is it that has to be known? Now, Sri Krishna answers, this body is called the field because a man sows seeds of action in it and reaps their fruits. Wise men say that the knower of the field is he who watches what takes place within this body. Recognize me as the knower of the field in every body. I regard discrimination between field and knower as the highest kind of knowledge. Now listen, and I will tell you briefly what the field is. Its nature, modifications, and origin. I will tell you also who the knower is and what are his powers. The sages have expressed these truths variously in many hymns and in aphorisms on the nature of Brahman, subtly reasoned and convincing in their arguments. Briefly, I name them. First, Prakriti, which is the cosmos, in cause unseen and visible feature. Intellect, ego, earth, water, and ether, air, and fire. Man's 10 organs of knowing and doing. Man's mind also, the 5 sense objects. Sound in its essence. There is an appendix star for sense objects, Brother Shankara. I will go back to, it says, go to page 161. I will see what it said on 161 about 5 sense objects. Let me read those. Okay. 5 sense objects. 5 organs of perception, which is sight, smell, hearing, taste, and touch. And the 5 organs of action, tongue, feet, hands, and the organs of evacuation and reproduction. That is what it said.
Mm-hmm. So it
Sound,
simply defines, let's
yeah.
just pause here.
Yes.
What we have here is a recapitulation of the Sankhya philosophy. And if you go to the back of the book, there is an appendix B, I think it is, called the cosmology of the Gita. The cosmology of the Gita is very different from the cosmology of today. We have a reductionist scientific cosmology now, a perfectionist cosmology. The cosmology of the Gita is the one from which Krishna is speaking. And it is this Sankhya philosophy. So I'll ask Haima to read over the elements of it as it is presented in the field and its knower. Because it's very important for us to understand that this is the frame of reference from which Sri Krishna is speaking. There is Prakriti, and then something happens. It's utterly undefinable, utterly undescribable, but it is simply called, within that cosmology of the Gita appendix, the great cause. And everything begins, everything that we know, everything that we can know. The field is created, and these are the elements of the field. So please go ahead and read again.
Okay, sure.
Is there, dear?
Okay, first Prakriti, which is the cosmos in cause unseen and visible feature. Intellect, ego, earth, water and ether, air and fire. Man's 10 organs of knowing and doing, man's mind also. The 5 sense objects, which are here listed as sight, smell, hearing, taste, and touch. And the 5 organs of action, tongue, feet, hands, and the organs of evacuation and reproduction. Sound in its essence of aspect, essence of odor, of touch and of tasting, hate and desire, and pain and pleasure. Consciousness, lastly, and resolution. These, with their sum, which is blent in the body, these make the field with its limits and changes.
These are the constituents, these are the elements of the field. So if you want to know what you're made of, at least according to what Sri Krishna says, this is what you're made of. The intellect and ego, of course, are not possessions of it isn't your intellect or your ego. That the intellect in you and the ego sense in you are reflections of the one divine being's intellect, which is the capacity to tell one thing from another, and ego, that which is telling one thing from another, the intelligence that is telling one thing from another. So these are the elements. And in you, these show up as mind and intellect. You'll notice that the mind is set apart in this description from the others, from the other aspects. Mind and intellect are very closely allied. And then there is this ego sense. I am a separate being. It's not true, but nevertheless, this is what happens when the field is created. Any comments, concerns, or questions about any of that?
This is a little out of left field, brother, but when Shankaracharya was talking about, he says, what is self-control? Control of the external sense organs like the eyes. And then it talks about how familiarity kind of can form an attachment. And it says to avoid this, we should restrict the use of our sense organs for their essential activities. And so I was wondering, what exactly do they mean by essential activities? What would be unessential?
Well, we have to remember that what you're reading is Adi Shankaracharya, and it is meant for non-dualists. It is not meant for the ordinary human being. And so the non-dualist will not use their sense organs. They say neti neti, not this, not that, to the use of their sense organs for anything except what is absolutely essential. You have to be able to see, to find your food, to cook your food, to eat your food. You have to, if you take medicines, you have to be able to see the medicines and take the right medicine at the right time in the right amount. These are the essential activities, and they restrict the non-dualist will. This is why a non-dualist cannot live in the world, because there are so many things that they must do that are not from the perspective of the non-dualist, that are not essential. And so most non-dualists, real non-dualists, are monastics, and they're very rare indeed, even those monastics that practice true Advaita. So this is what Adi Shankaracharya is addressing. He's not addressing you and me, who are bhaktas. Is that clear?
Yeah, I was just like, it just kind of struck me as odd, that particular passage.
Well, of course, all of Adi Shankaracharya is very odd for anyone who takes it seriously, because it is not addressed to someone who's going to live a life in the world in any sense whatsoever, however otherwise limited, as a Raja Yogi might live a limited life in the world. But even they do not live a life as limited as a jnani, as an Advaitis. So yes, Adi Shankaracharya will strike us as very strange. Anything else from anyone? All right, dear, please read on.
Therefore, I tell you, be humble, be harmless, have no pretension, be upright, forbearing. Serve your teacher in true obedience, keeping the mind and the body in cleanness. Tranquil, steadfast, master of ego, standing apart from the things of the senses, free from self, aware of the weakness in mortal nature, its bondage to birth, age, suffering, dying. To nothing be slave. nor desire possession of man, child, or wife, of home or of household. Calmly encounter the painful, the pleasant. Adore me only, with heart undistracted. Turn all your thought towards solitude, spurning the noise of the crowd, its fruitless commotion. Strive without ceasing to know the Atman.
Now,
See?
what Sri Krishna is urging, I'm going to
Yeah.
ask Haima to read this again.
Yes,
What
I will.
Krishna is urging on Arjuna is a life of the sannyasa. It may not mean taking formal monastic vows, but listen to what he's encouraging him to.
Mhm,
A life apart from the world,
mhm.
in recognition that this is the field that has been created. Renounce it,
Yes,
release it, do not participate in it, because it is the limitation that keeps us coming back again and again in rebirth. So please read, Haima, what it is that Sri
sure.
Krishna encourages Arjuna to do and pursue.
Yes. Therefore, I tell you, be humble, be harmless, have no pretension, be upright, forbearing, serve your teacher in true obedience, keeping the mind and the body in cleanness, tranquil, steadfast, master of ego, standing apart from the things of the senses, free from self, aware of the weakness in mortal nature, its bondage to birth, age, suffering, dying. To nothing be slave, nor desire possession of man, child, or wife, of home or of household. Calmly encounter the painful, the pleasant. Adore me only with heart undistracted. Turn all your thought towards solitude, spurning the noise of the crowd, its fruitless commotion. Strive without ceasing to know the Atman. Seek this knowledge and comprehend clearly why you should seek it. Such, it is said, are the roots of true wisdom. Ignorance merely is all that denies them. Now I shall describe that which has to be known in order that its knower may gain immortality. That Brahman is beginningless, transcendent, eternal. He is said to be equally beyond what is and what is not. Everywhere are his hands, eyes, feet, his heads, and his faces. This whole world is his ear. He exists, encompassing all things, doing the tasks of each sense, yet himself devoid of the senses. Standing apart, he sustains. He is free from the gunas but feels them. He is within and without. He lives in the live and the lifeless, subtle beyond mind's grasp, so near us, so utterly distant, undivided. He seems to divide into objects and creatures, sending creation forth from himself. He upholds and withdraws it. Light of all lights, he abides beyond our ignorant darkness. Knowledge, the one thing real we may study or know, the heart's dweller.
Well, this is,
Yeah.
of course, incomprehensible. This infinite, this description of the infinite is incomprehensible to our finite minds. And so we have to turn within
Mhm.
and seek this knowledge within ourselves. Because it is, as it is said in what Haima just read, subtle beyond mind's grasp. This subtlety is available to us when we turn within. This is the purpose of all spiritual practice, is to turn our attention within to where the voice of our true wisdom speaks to us and can communicate to us, not in words, but can communicate to us this subtle realm. Ultimately, once we gain sufficient grasp of this, we go into samadhi. And we are united with that in samadhi. And in that samadhi, there is true understanding. But as Sri Ramakrishna repeatedly found, there's no way to describe or tell his disciples, particularly the young men who became the monks of the order, ask him again and again, tell us what it is that you experience, what it is that you know in samadhi. And he brought himself to tears trying. So finally what he did was he conferred samadhi on each of the worthy ones. And so this is the only way that we can truly know what it is that is the field and its knower, is to we understand what we truly are and what it is. That will be the subject of this Sunday's talk. Our small successes, which are called, in this context, the title of the talk is Little Victories. As we progress along the way, we find more and more and more truth. And it is a spontaneous thing. It's not something that you can reach out and grasp. You can't do it without self-effort, but it is not the result of self-effort. Again, a paradox. Anything else from anyone about any of that? Or anything else that concerns you?
I like this sentence. He is free from the gunas, but feels them. That is very true.
Yes.
When you improve in your practices, you are free from the gunas, but you do know and you feel them. You do feel all three gunas sometimes.
Oh yes,
That's very true.
Our experience, our very life,
Yes.
is told, made of the gunas.
Yes.
So much of Rajoguna, so much of Tamoguna, so much of Sattva guna.
Right.
So, yes, and Brahman also experiences them, but does not participate in them.
Exactly. Yes.
I like that sentence too. Thank you.
Yes, very true.
So, anything else from anyone before we go on?
I was just thinking about, the paintings or the pictures you see with Kali dancing upon Shiva, and Shiva is just like chilling, unperturbed by the dancing of the mother.
Yeah.
Absolutely unperturbed. That's a word you don't hear often, and it's very fitting.
Even like the wrathful form of the mother, like Swami said, come mother, come, because Shiva's unperturbed by it all. I don't know, it just made me think about when you said that.
Yeah, very good. Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, Shiva is indeed Brahman. Shiva is utterly unperturbed. It all goes on, and the Atman is the witness. And when we learn as we turn within to identify with that witness self, so everything that is happening seems to us, in one way of putting it is, seems to be a movie taking place on the screen of our awareness. Everything that, all that the gunas are producing, all of the actions of the field, we see them as the witness. But as the witness, we simply see them. We know them, and so there's nothing wrong with them. It's said in the Gita that it's the witness function of the Atman sanctions those actions, but it in no way participates in them, and is, as Bhagavavan said, unperturbed. And this is what we end up being, is unperturbed.
That's
and
right.
when we're truly unperturbed, then we go into samadhi. First, savikalpa samadhi, which is an experience. It is within time, space, and causation. But it is the experience that there is nothing but the divine being. Call it what you will, God, Brahman, Mother. There is nothing but that. This is the experience of savikalpa samadhi. And that, it totally transforms you. You see everything that is happening, everything that takes place as an expression, an action, if you will, of the divine being. Absolutely impenetrable as to its intentions or the significance of its actions. But nevertheless, that's all it is.
I realize, like Sri Ramakrishna said, that bhakti is the best way for this time. And I'm like, well, it's better to have a loving guru dance upon your heart than a wrathful Kali dance upon your head.
Oh, yes.
I was like, I wanted to add something to the Swami's statement. It's like, come, mother, come, and let her dance upon us until I know I'm Shiva. And then you're there.
Well, he talks about the transformation of the heart in that come, mother, come. And the transfiguration of the heart is what happens. So then we see, and that is a kind of samadhi. As Sri Ramakrishna said, there are thousands of kinds of samadhi. Anything else from anyone? All right, dears, please read on.
Yeah. Now I have told you briefly what the field is, what knowledge is, and what is that one reality which must be known. When my devotee knows these things, he becomes fit to reach union with me. You must understand that both Prakriti and Brahman are without beginning. All evolution and all the gunas proceed from Prakriti. From Prakriti, the evolution of body and senses is said to originate. The sense of individuality in us is said to cause our experience of pleasure and pain. The individual self, which is Brahman, mistakenly identified with Prakriti, experiences the gunas which proceed from Prakriti. One more time, I'll read it. The individual self, which is Brahman, mistakenly identified with Prakriti, experiences the gunas which proceed from Prakriti. It is born of pure or impure parents, according to that kind of guna to which it is most attached. The Supreme Brahman in this body is also known as the witness. It makes all our actions possible and, as it were, sanctions them, experiencing all our experiences. It is the infinite being, the Supreme Atman. He who has experienced Brahman directly and known it to be other than Prakriti and the gunas will not be reborn, no matter how he has lived his life. He who has experienced Brahman directly and known it to be other than Prakriti and the gunas will not be reborn, no matter how he has lived his life.
Now that tells you something very immediate.
Yes.
This you may be living your life in a way that doesn't seem to be in accord with all these teachings, and yet somehow the gift of this knowledge is given to that person. Again, it's impenetrable. We don't know why. We don't know how. But then they become fit for union with Krishna, or they will not be reborn.
Mm-hmm.
So we must not think that we know what it is that others are doing, and we must not judge them for how they seem to be living their lives, because we just don't know. We just don't know. And when we judge others, when we think ill of others, when we think good of others for that matter, oh, they're living their lives well. We just don't know. So we keep to ourselves, we mind our own spiritual practices, and we practice love and compassion toward others. This is what the scriptures and the teachers always tell us. Whether it be Jesus, whether it be Krishna, whether it be Rama for that matter. Love the other. Practice compassion. Adi Shankaracharya teaches it. Sri Chaitanya in spades teaches it. So this is our charge, to live our lives as best we can without judging others, and instead of judging them in any way, love love thy neighbor as thyself. Anything else from anyone?
I don't know if the rational mind can explain grace.
No, cannot. Cannot. Simply cannot. The rational mind, we can read the book Divine Grace, which we will when we finish the Gita. We'll take up Divine Grace, but it is a book that leads us from a full expression of ourselves as an adult human being to that which is beyond that. And it is said to be, and said by Ranganathananda in the book, it is a gift from Sri Krishna. When we come to a full expression of our ego self, of our small s self, but very, doing it well, or doing it to the best of our ability, Sri Krishna taps us on the shoulder. Sri Krishna taps us on the shoulder and says, there's something more I'd like to show you, something more I'd like to give you. So this is, it's good you brought up grace, because this is grace. No matter how someone has been living their life, they're given this knowledge and set free. That's pure grace. And there's no understanding it. Thank you, Bhagavavan. Anything else from anyone? All right, dear.
Some whose hearts are purified realize the Atman within themselves through contemplation. Some realize the Atman philosophically by meditating upon its independence of Prakriti. Others realize it by following the yoga of right action. Others who do not know these paths worship God as their teachers have taught them. If these faithfully practice what they have learned, they also will pass beyond death's power. I'll read this one more time, Brother Shankara. Some whose hearts are purified realize the Atman within themselves through contemplation. Some realize the Atman philosophically by meditating upon its independence of Prakriti. Others realize it by following the yoga of right action. Others who do not know these paths worship God as their teachers have taught them. If these faithfully practice what they have learned, they also will pass beyond death's power. Know this, O Prince, of things created, all are come forth from the seeming union of field and knower, Prakriti with Brahman. Who sees his Lord within every creature, deathlessly dwelling amidst the mortal, that man sees truly. Thus, ever aware of the omnipresent, always about him, he offers no outrage to his own Atman.
No, what? Again, I'm sorry, I missed the word.
Okay. Thus, ever aware of the omnipresent, always about him, he offers no outrage.
Outrage. That
Outrage.
was the word I missed.
Yes, he offers no outrage to his own Atman, hides the face of God beneath the ego no longer. Therefore, he reaches that bliss which is highest. Who sees all action ever performed alone by Prakriti, that man sees truly. The Atman is actless. Who sees the separate lives of all creatures, united in Brahman, brought forth from Brahman, himself finds Brahman. Not subject to change is the infinite Atman, without beginning, beyond the gunas. Therefore, O Prince, though it dwells in the body, it acts not, nor feels the fruit of our action. For, like the ether, pervading all things, too subtle for taint, this Atman also inhabits all bodies, but never is tainted. By the single sun, this whole world is illumined. By its one knower, the field is illumined. Who thus perceives with the eye of wisdom in what manner the field is distinct from its knower, how men are made free from the toils of Prakriti, his aim is accomplished, he enters the highest. That's the end of the whole chapter, Brother Shankara.
Yes. Now, notice that what we've been given is the highest ideal.
Mm-hmm.
The highest ideal. There's no compromise here. There's no, yeah, but you can do this. No.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
It does say it doesn't matter how you've lived your life, but it doesn't say you should do that or it's okay to do that. It's just if that's what you've done, that's what you've done. So there's no compromise. This is the highest. So that's why I said this is one of the seminal chapters of the Gita, because though all of the Gita presents the ideal, this is the ideal in its purest form. So it's worth your rereading this chapter on
I
your own
will. Yeah.
if you're so moved. I'm not saying you should. There aren't any shoulds. It's just if you're moved to do so, there is so much here. It's as if the Sri Krishna had summarized all of the great teachings of the Upanishads in this one chapter. Anything else from anyone?
The next chapter is the three gunas, Brother Shankara.
Yeah.
Chapter 14, the three gunas. You want me to start that?
Okay, before we go ahead and read
Sure.
about the three gunas, again, I invite you to ask any question, express any concern, or comment from your own wisdom or experience about what it is that we've read in the field and its knower.
Actually, I was thinking today earlier that about how grace can come before the purity in the practice. And that, like say we can't explain grace. And then we rely on the gurus and the swamis to fill in the purity in the practice for us.
Well, that is grace. There's no explaining why. Why is it, of all the billions of people on this earth, why were we somehow chosen to receive these instructions? Ye have not chosen me, I have chosen you. This is grace. So you're right, the grace precedes. I'm sorry, the grace precedes even our accepting the invitation. It is a grace that we accept the invitation of the teacher. So here we are. What are there, 8 of us here this evening? 8 out of all the billions on earth?
Yes.
Pursuing this study of one of the greatest teachings that the world has ever received, Bhagavad Gita. What an incredible thing is that. What an incredible thing it is. And it is, the gratitude can't even begin to express what we feel when we let our hearts rest on what it is we're being given. So anything else before we go on and read about the gunas? We've got about another 20 minutes or so. What time is it?
One thing for sure, there's no shortcuts to get to that highest.
Oh,
Brother
no.
The only way is follow all those what was prescribed to us, especially the meditation.
If there is a shortcut,
Going into solitude, yes.
it's 8:50. If
Yes.
there is a shortcut, that too
Yes,
is
no
activity.
shortcut.
I think there's shortcuts everywhere. We just can't get them,
Yes.
until we can get them.
You can do the shortcut, but you can't get to where you want to.
Like in the prayer in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, where it says, give me pure love for thy lotus feet.
Mm-hmm.
I think that right there can take you all the way.
Well,
And
that is a shortcut, no doubt.
but we just can't get the shortcut until we're ready,
Ah, that's right.
Well, but we get it by praying for it.
Yeah.
That is a prayer that you just uttered.
Mhm.
As you said, it's a prayer. Give me pure love for your lotus feet.
Draw me closer to
Give
your
me
feet.
pure love. Oh, pure love. How rare is pure love.
Unsmitten by desire,
Yeah.
untainted by selfish ends. And so I really had to examine my motivations in my practices, and I discovered that I was in love with the experience, and I had to eventually get over that, and to where there was no devotion, there was no motive other than love itself.
Well, good for you for being able to get over it. Don't be surprised if that love of the experience arises again in a more subtle form and must again be renounced. The experience is very seductive,
Yes.
very seductive, and this is as you were gesturing toward. The only way to divorce ourselves from it is to become the witness, to simply see the experience as something else that is happening on the screen of our awareness and not be attached to it.
So, like you say, I'm fixing to probably go into a whole nother round of being in love with the experience, because the two things that were the instructions of the Swami upon initiation was to read the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna and then the Gospel of the Holy Mother. And so I'm beginning my study of the Holy Mother this week, and I don't even want to guess what I have in store.
Oh my Lord. Yes, it is. Her life is.
Very nice. Just amazing.
I'm not going to try to say anything at all about it. You'll find it. And if there was ever an astonishing human being that lived among us until 1920, she lived with us until July of 1920. There she was. So, more power to you. All right, the three gunas.
Okay. Chapter 14, page 127, the three gunas. Sri Krishna continues, once more I shall teach you that uttermost wisdom. The sages who found it were all made perfect, escaping the bonds of the body. In that wisdom they lived, made one with my holy nature. Now they are not reborn when a new age begins, nor have they any part in its dissolution. Prakriti, this vast womb, I quicken into birth with the seed of all life. Thence, O son of Bharata, the many creatures spring. Many are the forms of the living, many the wombs that bear them. Prakriti, the womb of all wombs, and I, the seed-giving father. From Prakriti, the gunas come forth. Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. These are the bonds that bind the undying dweller imprisoned in the body. Yes. Sattva, the shining, can show the Atman by its pure light. Yet, Sattva will bind you to search for happiness, longing for knowledge. Rajas, the passionate, will make you thirsty for pleasure and possession. Rajas will bind you to hunger for action. Tamas, the ignorant, bewilders all men. Tamas will bind you with bonds of delusion, sluggishness, stupor. The
Now
powers of
read again.
I will.
Even sattva binds you.
Yes.
So read again the sattva.
Sattva. Sattva, the shining, can show the Atman by its pure light. Yet sattva will bind you to search for happiness, longing for knowledge. Rajas, the passionate.
And this is exactly what Bhagavan was pointing to
Pointing to,
when he said this love of the experience, this love of being happy. The experience is a very happy, blissful one.
Mhm.
And we have the feeling that we're gaining more knowledge.
Yeah.
This is the entrapment of even sattva. So this is why we have to find our way to that witness being, the Atman, and see everything that occurs without exception, without any qualification or exception. Everything that occurs is something that is happening on the screen of our awareness, like a motion picture taking place. And yes, we're sometimes an actor in that motion picture. Sometimes we're the writer, sometimes we're the director, but nevertheless, we are, that is all that is happening. The Atman is our true original nature. But all three of these gunas will rob us of that awareness, of that knowledge. Subtle beyond mind's grasp.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So read them again, dear, starting with
Sure. Sattva, the shining, can show the Atman by its pure light. Yet sattva will bind you to search for happiness, longing for knowledge. Rajas, the passionate, will make you thirsty for pleasure and possession. Rajas will bind you to hunger for action. Tamas, the ignorant, bewilders all men. Tamas will bind you with bonds of delusion, sluggishness, stupor.
Notice that it says all human beings.
Yes.
The tamas is, we all know it. We all know those times
Bewilders
when
all men.
we just we just don't feel motivated to do anything.
Yeah.
That's when we must push through. I'll give an example. I have physical therapy to get better and be stronger. Today, I just did not want to take my walk.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to take a long walk in the corridors of this place. I don't mean going out to the outside, but just in the corridors. I did not want to do it. And I just had to push myself. I just had to say, no, you must get up and do this. Otherwise, you won't get stronger. And that was just plain tamas. So there we are. It's always there, and it's always there for all of us. All three gunas, all of our experience, all of our lives are made of these, the actions of these three gunas. They are the attributes of the mother's play. So, as Sri Krishna says elsewhere in the Gita, we must not hate the gunas and we must not love the gunas. We just have to observe their action and what they're creating. It may be said in this chapter, I don't even know. So go ahead, dear.
Yes, the power of sattva enslaves the happy. The power of rajas enslaves the doers. The power of tamas enslaves the deluded and darkens their judgment. When sattva prevails over rajas tamas, man feels that sattva. When rajas prevails over sattva tamas, man is seized by that rajas. When tamas prevails over rajas sattva, man yields to that tamas. I'll read this one more time. When sattva prevails over rajas tamas, man feels that sattva. When rajas prevails over sattva tamas, man is seized by that rajas. When tamas prevails over rajas sattva, man yields to that tamas. When understanding shines in through the senses, the doors of the body, no sattva is present. In greed, in the heat of action, in eager enterprise, in restlessness, in all desire, no rajas the ruler. When the mind is dark, bewildered, slothful, and lost in delusion, no tamas prevailing. That man who meets death in the hour of sattva goes to a sinless home among the saints of God. He who dies in rajas will be reborn among those whose bondage is action. He who dies in tamas will return to the womb of a dullard. Fruit of the righteous act is sattva, purest joy. As for the deeds of rajas, pain is their fruit. Truly, ignorance is all the fruit of tamas. Of sattva, knowledge is born. Of rajas, greed. Tamas brings forth bewilderment, delusion, darkness. Abiding in sattva, man goes to higher realms. Remaining in rajas, in this world he remains. Sunk in tamas, his lowest nature, he sinks to the underworld.
Now
Let the voice.
notice what it says about sattva. This is the prescription of Patanjali in his Yoga Sutras. We replace lower samskaras, lower knowledge with higher knowledge.
Yes.
And we slowly make our way, slowly, we make our way out of worldliness into spirituality. As Swami Vivekananda said, religion is nothing more than the manifestation of the perfection already within. That perfection is revealed to us by sattva. So when we cultivate sattva, which we do by any spiritual practice, then that knowledge slowly reveals itself to us. But we must not become addicted to seeking that knowledge, but just simply observe, yes, more knowledge has come, more knowledge has come, more knowledge has come. We know the knowledge is there because it's reassuring to us. It gives us, it sustains our sense of liveliness. How are we doing for time?
It's time now, 8:30. I think your time 8:30. So we probably would leave it there and then catch up next week
So,
from sattva again.
yes, indeed.
Yes.
So, dears, so glad you came.
Thank you, Brother Shankara. I'm honored.
So, Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai. Durga, Durga, Durga. May we all be safe. May we all be healthy. May we all be cheerful. May we all have peace of mind. And may we all go forward in the secure knowledge that we are in the loving and protective embrace of the Divine Being as our Mother and Father. So may we all be well and in bright spirits. Any final thought from anyone? Once again, thank you for gathering with us this evening.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm honored, Brother Shankara.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And of course, we missed Swayam.
We miss, yeah.
Oh, she was doing something wonderful.
She's taking care of the baby.
Right. Away we go.
Good night, Brother Shankara. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.